we are ready to begin. So it is September 4th, 2024. The time is just after 6 p.m. So this is our regular scheduled city council meeting for this evening. So we will begin with an invocation offered by Reverend Renee Hardy. I did not see Renee here, and I do not see Mr. Porter here, our typical backup. And Mr. Williams is not here either. So we are getting...
Just swing it yourself.
I could do it myself, yes, definitely. So if that is okay with everybody, then I'll go ahead and lead us in prayer. So if you'd like to stand for that, and then afterwards, if you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we give thee thanks at this time for this opportunity to pray. To begin this meeting, we're thankful for that right that we have to exercise these freedoms of religion and to do these things. We're grateful for the people that are here this evening, grateful for these council members and for their time and dedication to the city in striving to make it a better place for all of us. We're grateful for the employees of the city as well and the efforts that they give to make our community better. We're grateful for their dedication and their service, and for the community members as well. And we are grateful to be known as a city that loves to serve and to help each other. We pray that we can continue to be an example for those cities around us in striving to do the best and to be the best that we can. We pray for wisdom and guidance this evening and safety upon our police and fire as they go and do their duties and helping keep us safe as well. And we pray for these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Doty?
I am here.
Councillor Doty. Councillor Static? Here. Councillor Register?
Here.
Councillor Williams is not here. Councillor Allgood?
Here.
Councillor Dittenberg?
Here. Very good. Thank you so much, and we are thankful to have Angie Point with us. We're also missing our city clerk, so it is the night for absences tonight, but we appreciate Angie filling in for Debbie, who's not able to be with us this evening. Are there, so all 5 council members are counted present for. Councilor Williams did notify us, let us know he would not be here this evening, so we wish him well on his travels. So are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding any items on the agenda this evening?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Dittenberg.
Even though I do not believe it is a conflict of interest under the law, there is an item number 14 on the consent agenda that is an agreement between the city of Caldwell and my place of employment. And because of such, I will refrain from voting on the consent calendar.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you noting that and taking that caution, so it's greatly appreciated. Any other conflict of interest declarations? Okay, then we do have a special presentation this evening, a very special presentation, excited for this. So this is a proclamation, Elevate Our Everyday Heroes Day on that. So we have some of Jackie Briggs is here, founder and director of this organization on that. So you can start making your way forward if you like, and I'll go ahead and read this while you make your way up to the podium, and then you'll be able to explain to us a little bit about what all you do and the importance of that. So this is that proclamation. Whereas we recognize our law enforcement officers, firefighters, EMS, dispatchers, corrections, coroners, chaplains, retired first responders, healthcare workers, clinicians, military members, veterans, and their families as everyday heroes. And whereas these heroes put themselves in harm's way, protecting and serving our communities without hesitation, as they are called to help serve, protect, and save lives. Whereas their selfless work can take a great toll on their physical and mental health, and consequently, there has been a devastating upturn in the number of suicides among those professions. And whereas Idaho is currently tied for 50th in the United States for having the least amount of mental health and wellness resources. And whereas it has been shown that improving access to good mental health and wellness resources substantially affects these individuals, their families' well-being, as well as the communities in which they serve. And whereas we honor and pay tribute to those who have given their lives in the line of duty or died of suicide, as well as those who continue to keep the spirit of heroism alive each day by serving as our everyday heroes. Now therefore, I, Jaron Wagner, Mayor of the City of Caldwell, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2024 as Elevate Our Everyday Heroes Day. In witness whereof I hereto set my hand and cause to be affixed the seal of the City of Caldwell. So we're very excited to have that proclamation. Again, so that is a week from today, September 11th, is again in the City of Caldwell as Elevate Our Everyday Heroes Day. So we're excited to celebrate that. And Jackie, give you a few moments to kind of just explain that and your cause and the true meaning behind all of what you do.
Yep, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that this is our 5th annual event, and the first year started with just Nampa because it was an event happening in Nampa, and Caldwell jumped right on board, Nancolas did from the start, and so this is the 4th year that Caldwell has done this for September 11th. I'd love to see it be a national holiday, but in the meantime, I think this year we have 9 cities that are all doing this for us, and I think it really is not about us, but about you guys that are veterans. I know that there's 4 of you, I believe, on the city council that are veterans. So, and then I want to have the first responders, active and retired, stand up because it's really about you guys. And our organization is an Idaho-based nonprofit that we help support first responders, veterans, and their families with mental health and wellness resources, peer support, trainings, critical incident debriefs, any way that we can surround and support our folks. And so I just want to say thank you again for the support. Normally we have a big mental health symposium at the same time. On Saturday, everything at the Elevate Mind Body Studios in Nampa is a wellness facility, massage chair, red light, pain light, float pods, all that is free for our first responders, our veterans, and their significant other. They've done this for 5 years in a row now. We also have passes that we can give to people if you can't make it down there on Saturday, that we can get you down there and use services. And it is literally, these resources are helping make a difference with, first responders or veterans that have had nightmares for like 27 years, not able to sleep. When they're able to use these resources and connect with other resources that we have, it's really been making a huge difference. Is just a couple of examples. So I invite you to that. We usually have a mental health symposium, but because we've had so many folks that we've been helping with critical incidents and that were in crisis over the last 2 months, we pushed that off to November 8th. So Friday, November 8th, we're doing our mental health symposium on the Friday before Veterans Day, and I invite you guys to be a part of it, and of course the mayor to come and the city council to come if you'd like. We usually have a big opening ceremony and honor you guys and read the proclamations, and I'll have them on display, and then we'll get back to having it in September next year. So again, thank you guys so much.
Perfect, and thank you so much. And if you'll hold on one second, I'm going to bring this down to you, and then I think we'll get a picture with our Charge Jackson,
Okay.
our Public Information Officer.
Could I ask for the whole city council to be in the picture?
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe you guys to come up that are the first responders? Get up here, you guys. Come on, fire guys.
Yeah, you're gonna have to keep in. I can't have any more people on the end, so you guys are gonna have to fill in the middle.
Matt, you gotta go in the middle. Alan, middle. Yep, sorry.
Chief, I can't see you either, sorry.
Don, why don't you? Huh?
There you go, that's helpful. Thank you, thank you. All right, here we go. Let's do another one. One more time. Are you good? Yeah. Right there? Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Might need a firefighter, don't you? Thank you again so much. I appreciate you. Thanks, guys.
It's good getting in a little calisthenics this evening, so that's never a bad thing. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
may, Jackie's got one heck of a memory because she reminded me on my first term city council, I attended one of her get-togethers, I think it was on the weekend, and she reminded me that I had a little proclamation, and I reminded her that when you're on 8 or 9 different committees, sometimes you forget the chronological order of what you attended, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, and if it makes you feel any better, I introduced myself to her for at least the second time tonight in meeting her, so I think we all kind of experienced that, so yes, but thank you for that. And thank you for attending that back in the day when you were on the council before. So I know that means a lot to those organizations that take the time to be out there, so thank you for that, Councilor Stoddard. Okay, like I said, that is the only special presentation. We do not have anybody signed up for audience participation. So that moves us into, we do have an update report this evening, so we appreciate Denise being here from the Recreation Department. She's our Recreation Superintendent. So we do have just an update regarding the Caldwell Municipal Swimming Pool Construction Project. Denise, the time is yours.
Actually, I'm going to have Haley assist me with this, so it's a 2-for-1 tonight.
There you go, we'll take it.
Okay. So we just wanted to give everybody a quick update on how the pool project's coming along. I know it's a long time coming and everyone's very anxious to get this one moving forward and get the pool open next summer. So just the quick update that I have up here is just really, we've gotten some tile work done and we finished our waterproofing. So here's just some images of where the pool itself is at. You can see here in the deep end is the deep end, and here's our shallow end. So we've held off on plastering the pool, and so this is why when you drive by you'll see that it's not complete when you would expect the pool itself to be complete at this time. The reason that we wanted to hold on plastering is for a few reasons. One being our warranty will begin as soon as it's plastered. We figured if we don't need it plastered yet because we're waiting for the pool house, let's wait so that we can utilize that warranty as long as possible while that pool is being utilized. Also, if we plastered it this fall, then we would need to fill it, test it, and then empty it for the winter. It just made logistical sense to just wait until after winter so that we could just fill the pool once and not have to empty it for a season. And then lastly, we've worked with the subcontractor really closely on plastering, and we wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to cause any opening delays. He's assured us that there's going to be no delays in the construction of this plaster. He'll tent the pool if needed so that he can get in there earlier than what a winter month would normally allow. He'll tent the pool and make sure that all of the work is completed so that we don't miss that May opening date. Again, you'll see our tile work is complete and all of our equipment has been set.
Oh, if you would just go back to that.
Yeah.
So we actually have even more work done than what this shows. So the upper deck, they had to remove that, and so now that upper deck has been replaced as well. So we are getting a lot more of that concrete work done.
Yeah. Thank you, Denise. As we move on to the pump house itself, all of our MEP rough-ins are complete. We had to wait a little bit to finish our pool piping rough-ins. This was because of challenges we faced this summer with unknown underground utilities that we kept encountering as we were digging up the site. Since we have been able to repair those underground utilities that we encountered throughout the summer, it was some irrigation pipe. Unfortunately, the location of that irrigation pipe and the amount of water that was flowing through it wasn't just a quick fix. It took a little bit more time because we couldn't find where the water was coming from to shut the water off. So it took a little bit more time to actually fix the leak that we encountered during construction, which delayed getting the rough-in for the pool piping into the mechanical pump house. The good news is with the new bathhouse, there's no underground work, so we won't be facing any of these challenges with this next phase. And then once that piping, that rough-in is nearly complete, then we'll be able to finish off with the painting and all of our door and hardware. Moving on to our next phase, which is the pool house itself. Our architect provided us some renderings for everybody to look at. So here you can see just the overall view. Our construction set is in for permit now. And so the building department is reviewing that here internally. And we are going to be able to start demo of the existing pool house at the end of next week. And we'll be able to have that pool house demoed by the end of the month. This will allow for us to begin the new bathhouse in October. So you'll start seeing some new construction work going on in October as we get that new bathhouse moving forward. Again, some more renderings. We expect to start going vertical in January for that pool house. And then once we start going vertical in January, it's going to be a pretty quick build. We're doing a lot of CMU block, or we're using CMU block for the structure and for all of the walls, so we can move that pretty quickly. We'll get the building sealed, completed, and we'll get the pool filled and all the site work complete by May. Here you can see the floor plan of the new pool house. The old pool house was about 4,000 square feet, but about 1,000 square feet of that was mechanical space. Our mechanical portions of the pool are now its own separate building. So before it was only really 3,000 square feet of usable space. Our new pool house, we have about 5,000 square feet of usable space, and 600 square feet of that is storage that the pool will now be able to utilize, which is going to be great for them. Moving on to our interior, we have, again, a couple renderings so that you can see what the finish work looks like. You can see it's those CMU blocks on the inside. We have selected our finishes. We're just going through the last color determinations, but otherwise we're right there. We did choose to be very economical with our finishes, but we think that it's still going to turn out looking quite nice, and it's going to be very functional, low maintenance. A few more renderings. Locker room, you can see we've got some tile in there. And then this is just a quick construction timeline. I won't read through word for word, but you can see this is just the most recent timeline that we've received from our contractor. That's just the next couple of weeks. You know, we don't get the very detailed timelines for the entire project, as construction has some variances. So this is just the next couple of weeks of a couple details. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Seeing those pictures gets me excited for that pool. It looks phenomenal. So questions, Councilor Stanek?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, okay, $1 million question, when will it be done next year?
Yeah, so we're going to have it done in May.
In May?
May.
May
Okay,
1st
great.
is our goal.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. It won't open May 1st though, correct?
No.
It would open after school, but that's nice. So that gives a few weeks
Yes,
in between.
we wanted a few weeks because I want to do a big grand opening for the community before we actually open for swim. And so also want that buffer of a few weeks. So May 1st is the goal date
Very
to
good.
have it all completed.
Maybe we can get all the council members out there in those swimsuits to do a lap to break it in. Councilor Register.
I know that Jacob has asked for that. He's like, can I just do a cannonball before we all, open up?
Yep, so,
Feeling fully clothed.
very good. Councilor Allgood?
Yeah, Denise, I was just curious, that pool leaked for so long. I was curious what they found underneath. Do you know when they got that concrete up?
Well, there was, I would have to say there was more than just one issue. Yeah, if you want
Yeah.
to be detailed with it.
Yeah, so the pool leaking, my understanding is it was more of a concern of where the groundwater table was versus where the pool itself was leaking out. And so because of the location of groundwater with proximity to how deep the pool was, there was constant pumping that was being needed to pump away from the pool because of the groundwater surrounding it.
Okay.
And then the leak that we experienced was just some irrigation pipe. We don't know how long it's been underground. We have no record of the irrigation pipe that we hit. We just know that we hit some unknown city pipe and it started leaking. So we have a guess that could be contributing to the leaking that we saw from the pool, but we don't have a definitive answer.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Good. And maybe just one last comment. The exciting thing, I love this picture here because it shows those swim lanes. So before, we have actually a very thriving swimming community here in Caldwell. Swim team, the Stingrays, I think is what they're called, Caldwell Stingrays. They may have changed their name recently, but they travel throughout the entire state to different competitions, things of that nature. And Caldwell could never host because we were, I think, about 6 inches too short. We were not within the threshold, or was it even less than that?
Too long.
Too long, so too long.
In the width.
Yep, on
So
that.
too long in the width, too short in the length.
Yep, so now with these changes, they'll be able to implement to be within those required parameters so that we can host meets. My understanding is Twin Falls is the only other place that can do outdoor meets, and people love the outdoor meets. So this would be a place that we can now hold these meets, so bring in people from all over the state to come and to visit Caldwell and to be here. So it's going to be a great economic impact as well. So we're super excited for that. So, okay, well, thank you so much. That was a phenomenal update. Really appreciate that. The pictures were great, by the way. Pictures do say 1,000 words, so
Yes.
very well done. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was our only update report, so we do have the consent calendar before the council at this time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor
I move
Doty.
that
Do
we approve the consent calendar as printed.
we have a second?
Second.
So it's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic for approval of the consent calendar as printed. So with that, we will pull up the voting and get those buttons warmed up, and voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes. Oh, yes, thank you. I forgot about the yellow. So Councilor Dittenberg did abstain from that vote, and the other 4 council members did vote in favor, so that does pass. 4 in favor, no against, and 1 abstention. That moves us into our old business. The first one is old business action item number 1, continued. Consider resolution authorizing the execution of a reimbursable agreement with Envision Construction, and I believe that this may be requested to be continued. Is that correct, Councilor Doty or Councilor?
Mayor?
You got that? Mhm.
Yeah, request that it be continued on behalf of Scott from the airport. I think he wants to go over some numbers with Mr. McDonald, and so I think that's agreeable. So a date certain of September 16th, if we can continue it until then, that would be great.
Perfect. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
So it's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic to continue old business action item number 1 to our next regularly scheduled city council meeting, which will be on Monday, September 16th. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then that motion passes, and that'll be, again, continued to our next scheduled city council meeting. So now on to old business action item number 2, consider resolution authorizing the use of contingency funds for payment of the car park invoices in the amount of $78,000. Ray Lynn.
So, in the packet, Marlon's going to bring it up. This report was provided by the car park, and so it kind of breaks down the expenditures. This was adjusted last month, or last city council. The amount was about $63,000. It included through June. I received an updated report through July, and so the amount was adjusted to include July's amount. So to kind of go through this and show you kind of where the breakdown is. So overall revenue to date was, and this is May, June, and July, the car park received $51,936.70. And total expenses, and you can see the breakdown of the expenses. It includes payroll, it includes software, equipment, all of that is a total of $121,328.59. And then the monthly management fee of $8,750. So with the revenue that's been collected and then the total expense, the total that is due to the car park through July is $78,141.89. So that is the request. This was not budgeted because this did go in after the fiscal year 2024 budget. And so this would be required to come out of contingency funds.
Okay.
So,
Very good. We do have a couple lights. Councilor Register.
Yeah, so if I guess I can get a calculator out, but the equipment expense looks like it's $30,796 out of this $78,000. So the rest of it is the management fees or operation fees that we agreed to?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
So here's my concern, and this isn't necessarily for you so much as it is for the council or mayor. We still don't have any answers on the equipment purchases, lease, or anything like that. So at the special meeting that we had, we brought up concerns about how that happened, that was never brought before council, and part of the reason why you now have to have it approved here by us is because it wasn't approved or budgeted, basically. Right? So much that we hadn't approved or budgeted the equipment expense.
So I guess the car park, because it was never a part of the budget originally, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have anything that shows us how this happened. We don't have a lease. We don't have any documentation. We don't have anything. So I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm not even sure that we even have that initial contract. So my first feeling is to not approve this at all. But I also realize that the car park probably acted in good faith as far as their management was concerned, and we don't want to obviously be those people. But I am going to ask that we take the equipment expense out. And because we have not received any answers at this point, I think that before we pay the equipment expense, that we do have an independent investigation started to see what happened here and what information we can get that we need as a governing body.
Mr. Mayor, I'll
Yes.
second, is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that motion would be to approve the expense excluding, and again, I'll get very detailed because it's right here, so excluding the $30,796.45 for equipment expense. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So that is a motion from Councilor Register to approve it, excluding the equipment expense, and a second from Councilor Doty. Any discussion on that motion?
I have a
Yes,
question.
Councilor, all good.
And this is for Counselor Register. So, sorry. So, when we first started having this discussion, and you were definitely the lead on it, the equipment was under operating expense?
Well, they don't know. So when we brought it up at that meeting, one of the things that the city attorney said at that point was that he believed that that could have been it, right? But nobody knows. We don't have anything in writing for the equipment expense. We don't know if the city authorized it, if Car Park just went and did it. We don't know when it was purchased, if it was purchased before the October 17th meeting or after. We don't know who approved the cost. We don't know if we were supposed to have an RFP. We don't know if we were supposed to go through any kind of process per the state code. That's why I think we need to have this independent investigation to just kind of see how it all went. And then we know who's who and where we're at and what we need to do.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of paying our bills, you know, I don't like to not pay our bills, but I completely understand where you're at. I just trying to, you know, because there was discussion, it was all lumped in at operating expense at one point, and so I was just.
Well, and I think it would be, well, I mean, because that's why I'm not pushing like the like not paying the whole bill, because I don't think we need to be those people. I think that there was an understanding of the management part of it. But when it came down to the equipment part of it, we were not included in that. And so that's why I have a hard time as council approving something that we don't have any information on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Yes, thank you so much. Any other discussion on that motion? Okay, so with that, voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed. And that motion does pass unanimously. Okay, and that moves us into,
So just to make the public clear that
Oh, yeah.
that was paying the bill less the $30,000.
yep,
in
correct. So I know on that it did show that 78, so this would be that final amount, taking out the equipment expense that was shown on the spreadsheet that was before you. This moves us into old business action item number 3. Consider findings from the Caldwell Fire Department regarding the recommended relocation of Fire Station number 1. Chief Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, members of the Caldwell community, and city staff. Marlon, if you could pull up the PowerPoint. Thank you, sir. So 2 weeks ago, we came before council to have a workshop session to discuss options for the construction of new Fire Station 1. We got some directive from council, which was much appreciated, to answer some key questions that were relative to next steps in terms of location. So I come before you today with an update and hopefully to answer some of those questions. Before I get started, I definitely want to send thanks to Chief Daniels, who's sitting in the back. He did all the lion's share of this work and put this together. And we actually had a history lesson together, which was great, especially when I hear about the pool construction. There were some of those elements that we also learned in terms of the entombment of the Indian Creek from 1936 through 1966. But I'll get into that in a moment. So if we could start on the first slide. There we go. So questions from the workshop. Can we build on the old City Hall site without complications? More than likely, yes. The old Indian Creek diversion did not travel through the portion of the city or underneath the property at the former City Hall site. And I have a map that will show you where that diversion lands. Next slide. An additional question from the workshop. What is the Indian Creek scenario under Fire Station 1's lot? It is certain that the remnants of the old Indian Creek entombment are still in place underneath the current Fire Station 1 parking lot and throughout the downtown area. Here we have a schematic map that was created for tonight's presentation that shows the entombment of the work that was done between 1936 and 1966 in green, and that shows you the channeled pathway. It doesn't show the current pathway of Indian Creek post the rebuild that's occurred in the last 20 years. In the red section, you see current Station 1 adjacent to that entombment channel. It should be noted in some of the a review that we conducted and kind of the history lesson we conducted, we learned that the history behind that entombment and what went into the berms that were created along that channel prior to the entombment and some of the elements and items that were found in there. And so I think that adds to the complexity of what that lot looks like in terms of the current Fire Station 1. Additional question from the workshop in terms of demolition costs. Well, we're looking at $8 to $14 per square foot. So that would mean for the former City Hall and adjoining properties, it would be $725,000. For Fire Station 1, and that's just the fire station itself, not the 621 building, that would be $370,000. And there would be no demolition costs associated with the Chicago property. In terms of costs of site improvements, another question from the workshop, former City Hall and the adjoining properties would be included in the demo. Fire Station 1, we're anticipating costs of site improvement to be about $400,000, and that's a best guesstimate based upon what we've seen in our research in terms of the entombment and the tunneling that's adjacent to that lot site. And then in terms of the Chicago site, it's $585,000, and that's based upon leveling up the platform of that lot to meet flood control elements in that lot. So what are the other anticipated expenses? Well, the former City Hall and adjoining properties, there would be none anticipated other than the demolition component that we were talking about. For the current location of Fire Station 1 as an option, there are three significant cost considerations. One is the size of that lot wouldn't have room for administrative offices, so we'd have to locate those administrative offices in a separate area, in a separate purchase, approximately $500,000 to $1 million in terms of purchasing a separate property and building. Cost of temporary housing while under construction, that would be about $100,000 approximately for us to move our crews into separate facilities. And then cost of temporary apparatus storage at approximately $50,000. Now in terms of Chicago, the required infrastructure investment would be water, sewer, power, and communications. So we're still waiting for fiber, and we are still navigating through what sewer and water would look like to that site, because it's not on the same grid that the current City Hall site as an option has. So one of the other questions was land values of each scenario. So utilizing the existing Fire Station 1 site, the Fire Station 1 land area of 0.51 acres, the Fire Station 1 land value has been estimated to between $870,000 and $920,000. Moving into the values of each scenario, each former City Hall compound, utilizing the former City Hall compound and facilities, that total assessed area is 1.01 acres, and that value is between $1.74 million and $2,037,433. And then with Chicago, that combined land use is 2.7 acres, valued at $327,348 per acre. So that total site value is $883,839. So here are some of the fiscal impacts, the nitty-gritty. So the City Hall site, as you can see, has property and demolition costs that total $2.4 million. Fire Station 1, demolition, site improvements, temporary housing, administrative offices, total cost of $1.4 million. The Chicago site, property $889,000, plus site improvements for a total, plus infrastructure of $1.4 million. So the fiscal impact, any differences in values to the aforementioned addresses with the sale and transfer of property on Belmont, the Station 1 value is approximately $870,000. The sale and transfer of the Belmont property of $520,000 back to impact fee funds for use at Station 4 and Station 1 is about $1.4 million in proceeds. Applied to City Hall site, that would be $1.7 million minus the CFD balance to carry, which is $299,300. Total, if transactional, demolition costs not included, the City Hall site minus the CFD component would be $300,000. CFD sells Belmont interest, City 1 site, as the CFD spends $1 million, and then the Chicago site, CFD spends $584,000 for lot improvement plus unknown infrastructure costs. So that CFD sells the Belmont interest at the end of the day. And then summary next steps. Our recommendation is still the old City Hall site, recommended to City Hall compound for use of Station 1. If acceptable to Council, resolution will be presented on September 16th for Council for consideration. This is the language of the resolution that we'd be utilizing. We're looking at a $300,000 shortfall, which is the funds that we would want to make sure it balances out the city's coffers based upon the assessments that we've conducted. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you so much, Chief. Councilor Alden.
Yeah, Chief. I think the old Fire Station 1 site is probably out. I think the contemplation is the other two. But would you build the same structure on either place, or because of the extra size of the Chicago Belmont site, would you build something bigger, different? Can you kind of reflect on that a little bit?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Allgood. Both sites, to your point, are different in terms of the size of the plot. So if we were to build at Chicago Belmont, that would be a single-story station. It would have a different configuration of layout. And we have preliminary artist renderings that were conducted with our architect to create that footprint. The Station 1 location at the old City Hall site would be 2 stories, but they would both have the same number of apparatus bays. So they would both have the same capability and the same capacity. One wouldn't be more capable than the other. It would just be design differences.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Stoddick.
Mr. Mayor, Chief, off of Belmont there, north of Belmont, there's some earth-moving equipment there. Do you have any idea who's building there or what's going on there?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Stoddard, I believe that has something to do with IDT, because I've seen that same lot,
Oh.
that same construction, and my understanding is that's all part of a floodplain or a water maintenance area for IDT, but maybe Mr. McDonald has more information.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's an agreement occurring right now between the Public Works Department as well as fire and police. The water division is being removed from access to the city's gravel pit. Therefore, we are making room for it on the water property next to our existing department. That's probably the equipment that you've seen out there.
Okay, thank you.
So I do have a question just for clarification. So the Belmont site that was noted, so I'm just a little confused which property that is. I don't know if Ray Lynn or Chief on it, because I know we purchased some property recently, but I thought that was street funds, but this seems like maybe it was fire impact fee funds on that. So that's just where my confusion is, just make sure what property and what funds were used for that.
So I believe it was the 205 Belmont, and that was when we originally went to purchase it. I know the intention was for water fund to use it because they are directly around that, but water did not have those funds available. And so fire impact did purchase those funds with the intention, I think, as part of this conversation, as doing kind of a transfer land swap with appropriate value.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. That clears it up for me. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any, so I appreciate that presentation. So the plan to be have this back before council at the next city council meeting for that final decision of the council. So appreciate the research. Thank you, Chief Daniels, as well, for all that wonderful research and all the history of downtown Caldwell. Might have to go walk those tunnels someday and see what's down there. So
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and my understanding is there is a bat cave underneath Station 1, so I volunteer to go down and as firefighter Albert from Batman and look for that bat cave. Apparently, there's a big nest down there, so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you,
Yes,
Council.
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Doty.
Cheat sheet's asking for a motion on this, but we haven't decided. We just got the information about the sites, and it's asking for which site specific for September 16th. Are we taking motions for this, or are we just going to, is what we've already said good enough for tonight?
So that's a good question. Do we need to make a motion on this at this time, Taylor, or?
So, Mayor and Council President Doty, so my recommendation, I know that the vote is listed as a resolution. As Chief Frawley already mentioned, the resolution is going to be coming in the next city council meeting with some direction of the council on how to move forward as staff to prepare those documents. I think what would be appropriate is if we just take a vote on confirming which property we want to move forward on preparing those documents for.
Okay, so then that motion would need to include which site your preference is, and then move forward with that for the next city council meeting with the appropriate documents. Would that be appropriate? Okay. So do we have a motion to that regards?
Mr. Mayor, I just had a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't really know what council wants, so I don't know which location. It sounds like it's going to be Old City Hall. I guess I could just call that location, we can see if it passes.
Yeah, or discussion, if anybody wants to have any discussion as well. So I don't know if you want to make a motion or see if there's discussion prior. Councilor
I
Alden.
think I know the answer to this. Chief, would you come back up for just a second?
Yes, sir.
Like I said before, I believe everybody is kind of in between the Chicago Street and the Old City Hall, but it's fire's recommendation that the Old City Hall, that's what you're requesting from council?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Doty, that's...
All right.
Okay. Councilor Dentenberg, did you have oh, your light's off, sorry. It was on. Go ahead, Councilor Doty. Oh.
I have a question. I do.
Okay, did you have a question?
I had not a question. I was going to make the motion, but if you're going
So
to...
Councilor Register does have a question.
Just real
Sorry,
quick.
that's it
So
popping up.
I just want to talk about money real quick. So this was bonded passed, right? So is Station 1, or I'm sorry, the old City Hall site, is that going to cost the taxpayer more money outside of the bond, or no?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Registered, negative at this time. We're going to utilize the funds that we have, that we're proposing to use to be approved by council from existing impact fees and the property transactions that Raylyn mentioned earlier to make sure that we cover the cost of that property, and that the bond itself will be paying for the construction of Station 1 with administration and the contributions to Station 4 once we move forward with Station 4.
Okay, so there's not going to be an extra cost to the taxpayer that they're not expecting if we choose this particular spot, since it seems to be more expensive?
I just want to make a clarifying point. So Station 1 is not on the impact fee CIP, so none of the purchases for Station 1 could be on the impact fees, only Station 4. So the bond funds would have to be used for Station 1 transaction.
Okay, if I'm reading this right, it looks like the City Hall location is the most expensive one. So I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to affect the taxpayer, if at all. Not that I'm not against the location, I just want to make sure we know exactly what we're doing. And then is Nampa Fire putting into Station 4 as well?
Yes, that is, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Register, that's affirmative. First point to your question is we want to utilize any of the existing funds we currently have in capital to bridge the needs for the purchase of the property, and then the bond will be moving forward with the construction, et cetera. Our goal is not to impede any additional cost to the taxpayer, because the bond is here to pay for that. The second piece of the conversation with Nampa will be, once we have the property is ready to build, then we can work collaboratively to build that station, and that's part of the ongoing partnership we have with Nampa.
Okay, but we're not expecting to take all the costs for
No.
the station down there, Station 4? Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Counselor Doty, did you want to make that? Oh, sorry, Counselor Sadek, did you have?
Yeah, just one more question. Are we still going to get cooperation from NAPA as far as the ambulance service on number 4 or not? Do you know that yet?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Stoddard, we are working with Canyon County paramedics pretty closely. We've had some good conversations with them as they go through their journey to find funding. They want to partner with us. We want them in our facility. It's just a question of how we can support them or educate the public so that they can get the funding that they need to really participate. But they've communicated to me that that's a great location for an additional paramedic ambulance.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Okay, okay, go ahead.
Back to kind of to follow up on yours, Mr. Mayor, and Raylyn will probably have to answer this. So if the Chicago property was purchased with impact fees, is that correct?
The Belmont property was purchased with impact fees. Water or Streets owns the water, I believe, owns the Chicago property.
Okay, and so I think that might be some of my confusion. So if it goes to Old City Hall, what's the plan for the Belmont location and that impact fees were used for?
So I believe Water still wants that piece of property, so they would essentially purchase, transfer that to Water and reimburse. We would have to reimburse the impact fees because we have not owned it for 10 years with obvious interest or something to that effect.
Okay, and we're all good on the impact fee rules and to be able to do that? I just want it open in the public, that
Yes.
somebody has looked at those rules and laws and that we're kosher legally with doing that if it were to take place.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Allgood.
Yeah, we're going to beat this thing up. So has anybody done a groundwater contamination test at the Old City Hall area? Are you aware?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Allgood, I'm not aware of a groundwater test in that site. However, in our research, in our history that we were developing, when the Farm Bureau built that facility in the 1970s, it was built with a higher level of probably attention to detail that didn't necessarily exist, I believe, at Station 1 when Station 1 was built in 1966. And I think I have more concerns with that site than I do with City Hall.
And the reason I ask is, across the creek, the back parking lot of the police department has significant contamination, and it was well over $1 million to clean that contamination. I would hate to see us start digging a hole right across the creek without knowing what we were getting into there.
Yes, sir.
All right? Thank you.
Okay.
So now I'm a little bit more confused. So should we not suggest that site until, do you want a soil test done first? Is that what
I
you're
think that
recommending?
might be of value because, like I said, there was significant contamination on the north side of the creek. If it leached over to the south side of the creek, it was a big expense.
Or you could, correct me if I'm wrong, you could still move forward with a condition that a soil test be conducted, so that that way it wouldn't have to come back if everything looked good. If it didn't look good, then it would have to come back. So that's an option as well, if you want to move forward in that direction.
Right, Mr. Mayor, and I understand that, but I think what we're saying, because that probably would have to be done anyway, but maybe do it before we start digging a big hole. Right, Counselor Allgood? So maybe move that to the top of the list if this location is approved.
Yes, and again, I wouldn't bring it up except, like I said, it was significant enough they dug up all the dirt and hauled it away and brought in new dirt. It was a big deal. So I would just want to make sure before we settled on that and started demoing a building that we didn't run into something similar as we did on the law enforcement side over there.
Yes, sir, and we, as part of our due diligence, we can work with our consultant to get that information and bring that and share it with
I
the
think it
public.
would be safe to do so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like Mr. Allgood's going to make this motion then, or somebody at that end.
Counselor Allgood.
I'm not quite sure how to make this motion. The motion I'll make is that we move forward with the previous City Hall site, but it be contingent on a groundwater test in that area to make sure there's nothing unexpected before we proceed with any demolition or anything like that.
Okay, very good. So that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Counselor Allgood and a second from Counselor Denber. And again, this is for this moving forward to prepare documentation. So this still does have to come back to council in 2 weeks. That will not be enough time, I imagine, to have that test done. It'll take longer than that. But again, there was that caveat that before construction begins, obviously the testing take place before that does occur. So this motion is just to give guidance to finance and police or fire to bring back in 2 weeks with the final decision of Fire Station 1's relocation at the former City Hall site. Any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I understand the motion. You said groundwater. Do you mean soil contamination and/or groundwater, or
Yes, that's correct.
we're trying to beat it, I know.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so with that, if there's not any further discussion, then the voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed. And that motion does pass unanimously. Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Mayor, Council.
Okay, so that is final action of our old business, and that moves us into new business, action item number 1. And this is just more of a housekeeping item of annexation into the municipal irrigation district by some new subdivisions. So this will be for bill number 69, ordinance 3630, and bill number 70, ordinance 3631. And this can all be done in one motion.
I guess
Mr.
I'll-
Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Allgood.
I'll sponsor Bill number 69, ordinance number 3630, and Bill number 70, ordinance number 3631, and move for its passage by title only.
Very good. Do we have a second? So it's a motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Register for adoption of these bills and ordinances as described. Any discussion? With that, the voting is open at this time. All votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. that moves us to new business action item number 2. Consider resolution authorizing the use of Caldwell Fire Department lateral longevity payments for FY 2024 in the amount of $88,916.45. Is this you, Raylan, or is this Chief? Or one of the chiefs?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor and Council, I was just talking to Chief Shoup about our previous agenda item. I come before you tonight to review and discuss a resolution that we bring forth to you that we worked with Raylin in Finance through to create a longevity acknowledgement for the unrepresented employees in the command staff. And I come before you to answer any questions and to kind of speak to that point. We're trying to mirror the same steps that have occurred in other public safety departments within the city to make sure that we address the issues that need to be addressed to create the separation between the rank structures.
Great, thanks so much. Questions? Any questions for Chief Frawley? Councilor Doty?
Mr. Mayor, but I'd like to hear from Raylene to understand what her understanding is of the action item.
So this resolution is a one-time payment to acknowledge, it does take the longevity calculation, which is $1,000 plus service time times 0.5%. I believe that's off the top of my head. Don't quote me on that. But essentially that calculation on longevity, however, instead of just using Caldwell City time, this does use total years of service for the particular people that are included in this, which is admin staff for fire. This would be a one-time. For fiscal year 25, we did include longevity, but it was only for Caldwell Fire years of service. So.
Any other questions?
One follow-up.
Yes, go ahead, please.
As always, where are the funds going to come from and what account, and how does that account look currently?
So fire was approved a position that, a division chief that has not been filled. I believe the plan is to fill it in October, or it's already currently filled.
We're currently recruiting, but
Currently
yeah.
recruiting. But because those funds are still remaining, that's where this would come from, is that salary portion, so.
Okay, any other questions or discussion or motions? Oh, Councilor Dittenberg.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution as presented authorizing the use of City Fire Department lateral longevity payments for FY 2024 in the amount of $88,916.45.
Very good, so we do have a motion from Councilor Dittenberg for approval of the resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Stanek. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, then voting is open at this time. All votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much,
Mr. Mayor and
Chief.
Council.
Okay, that moves us into action item number 3. Consider resolution authorizing the execution of a reimbursement agreement with Idaho Power for sanitary service to 112 West Ithaca Street in the amount not to exceed $50,000. Ashley.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I have before you a reimbursement agreement with Idaho Power between us and Idaho Power regarding their Ithaca Street substation. I wanted to provide a little bit of background on this reimbursement agreement and why the city would pay up to $50,000. Earlier this year, our sewer collections team found that the sewer main in First Avenue had collapsed. When we found that, we saw that there was a utility conflict that was actively occurring, and there was really no good way to replace the gravity sewer without tearing out and redesigning a whole bunch of storm drain in that roadway and ripping up the roadway as well, resulting in additional costs to us. We never actually received complaints about a backup from Idaho Power because that substation bathroom really gets seldom used. There's not a lot of activity there, and they are at the far end of the line. So it did take a while to find that. Now Idaho Power is building a new building on site and a new facility, and so that amount of traffic is about to change. Also, the city has a rather long sewer easement across the Ithaca substation, and we don't really have good access to it. Neither we nor Idaho Power wants the city to access that due to safety concerns. Again, it is underneath the substation. Therefore, as a part of this agreement, we're proposing to vacate our sewer easement. And again, Idaho Power is the only user of that underneath their substation. We would also propose to provide Idaho Power with a private sewer pump so that they can pump from their site across First Avenue into the city sewer, basically bypassing the location of the utility conflict and the sewer collapse. And again, this is in lieu of redesigning all of the storm drain and sewer and First Avenue. And with that, I would stand for questions.
Good, thank you so much. Questions? Counselor Allgood?
Yeah, actually, I just want to make sure I understand. So Idaho Power is going to pay for this pump, or we're paying for this pump?
We're paying for it because we have, since the sewer collapse, we have not been able to provide them with sewer service.
And they're going to continue to pay us for utility service?
Yes, because they will continue to pump their sewage to our main at a different location.
Okay, is this any way abnormal to anywhere else we do this type of thing? Are we making any?
The abnormality is that we can't figure out why there's a utility conflict there. We have made efforts to provide a new conduit so that they can pump, but gravity-wise, it's an unfortunate situation. We're working with Idaho Power because they're really the only one at the far end of that line. If this were a full street section of customers, we would probably be in a situation where we need to redesign the road and the storm drain.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or any motions?
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Doty?
let me find it on here. I move to approve the resolution as presented, authorizing the execution of reimbursement agreement with Idaho Power for sanitary sewer service to 112 West Ithaca Street in the amount not to exceed $50,000. And just to comment on that, I think that's a lot cheaper than, it sounds like tearing up streets and replacing water drains along the streets.
Great. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stodic for approval of the resolution. Any discussion on that motion? With that, voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed. And that motion passes unanimously. And that moves us into action item number 4 under new business, the finance report. Counselor Allgood.
Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee has reviewed current accounts payable in the amount of $4,083,458.29 for the period ending August 27, 2024, and a net payroll of $686,850.16 for pay period ending August 10, 2024. I move the accounts payable in the amount of $4,083,458.29, represented by check numbers 180251 through 180666, and payroll for the amount of $686,850.16, represented by check numbers 39565 through 39586, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Very good. So we have a second?
Second.
Motion from Counselor Allgood and a second from Counselor Register for acceptance of the finance report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that gets us through the new business and into our council comments. So as we jump into this, so just a few real quick, because I think these will come up, just a fast update of where we're at with the car park. In that regards, as everyone is aware, and I know some council members are talking this, so I don't want to take any of their thunder, but some investigation has continued to take place to find, do we have that final budget that's been presented, so we're still in search of that, reaching out to get that. And when was that submitted? Receipts were requested on that part. So I did, and you all did receive an email from me this evening. There's been some questions to the car park and discussion with them. That it would be easier to have those go through the mayor's office rather than trying to field questions from all different council members, and try to have that just funneled through the mayor's office, and then we'll provide those on that. And we should have those 2 of the 3 receipts ready by tomorrow morning. The third one they did not quite have yet, so he was looking for that to get that over, but we'll have those out to you. And then any other items that you do have, please bring forward, and we are continuing to look through that and to gather that information to provide to all of you as you have those questions come up. So just want to put that out there as we get into these comments, and with that, we will start with Councilor Doty with council comments.
Mr. Mayor, since you brought up parking, it's been a while now. Do we know if the RFP for the parking was done properly? I think that the question was that the RFPs went out, and then, quite frankly, a news media source got a hold of it and said it wasn't done within the required dates. It's a question we wanted answered. Do we have the answer to that question yet?
My understanding is that it was, but I'd refer over to our city attorney to just confirm in that regards.
Mayor and council, in speaking with Mr. Hilty, we believe that the RFP process was done properly. I do know that there is some more work to be done in terms of looking for documents or any sort of communication that exists between the operating costs and the things that are associated of that nature. But yeah, it's our opinion that the RFP process was done legally and properly. Thank you.
And Greg, could we maybe get that in writing somewhere, the dates of the RFP and what law that it did comply with, just as part of the continuing investigation of the parking meters?
Certainly, and Council President Doty, I think as the mayor already kind of alluded to, there's more research and discussions to be had to make sure we fill in those gaps and get the correct information over to you guys. So once that's completed, I think that some sort of documentation or follow-up would be definitely appropriate. Thanks.
Thank you. So for some good news, I attended the golf board meeting, and just a shout out to the junior golf. It sounds like we got some future golfers coming up, and that program is going well. And lots of kudos to all those that work with junior golf. I didn't know we had a golf pro, but I'm on the golf board, but I met him at the golf board. So, and Roy Arnstead?
I think, yeah, Almstead or Armstead?
Armstead?
Yeah, Almstead.
Almstead?
Or just Roy, yeah.
Seemed to, yeah, like he knew about golf for sure, and there's no doubt about that. Gave a presentation about himself, so I encourage all of you to reach out to him and talk with him and see the direction he's going, and he has some great ideas. He was brand new, so I don't want to steal his thunder, and quite honestly, I don't think he went over all the ideas because he's pretty fresh. And then just a shout out again to Ken Wheeler for the grounds crew. He continues to get compliments all over the Treasure Valley for sure, and probably even beyond that. But he certainly works hard. You can tell his care and passion for our golf courses. So just a shout out to him too, and that was covered at the meeting as well. So.
Yeah, don't really appreciate that because I hear many times from golfers because golfers like to get around and go golf different courses, and many of them say we have the best course in the Treasure Valley, if not the entire state. So appreciate that shout out to Ken because he does a great job out there. Councilor Stadek.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted you to know on the council we added 2 new members to our Veterans Board. One is Lieutenant Rice to keep us on a straight and narrow, and the other one is Chris Ramus from the Finance Director's office, and I did get that approved with both supervisors, so we're happy to have him on board, and Mr. Ramus is going to help us with our grant request, so thank you.
Awesome, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Councilor Register.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate the officers and new staff of the Caldwell Police Department. And I think it's really neat to see how many people want to come to this agency, especially from other agencies. And I think that's just a testimony to you, Chief, and Deputy Chief, and your admin. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. And then while I was at it, I was thinking about, we've never acknowledged our security guy over there. And I know you probably can't see him, but he's always there, Josh, is it Josh? And so he's big enough to block the whole door, so we're very excited about that. But just so the people that aren't here know that he comes to all our meetings and keeps us really safe. So I appreciate you being here very much. But anyway, so moving on to the maybe not so fun part. I hear what you're saying, Mayor, about getting receipts from the car park, and I think just to sort of clarify for the public that there was some question as to when this equipment was bought, whether that was before this October 17th meeting we had or after. And so the mayor's office is kind of trying to sort that out. And so I think that's maybe kind of what you're talking about as far as the purchase for some of that equipment, which I think is great. But I still feel like there are so many questions that have been left unanswered that it would be better for the city to have some sort of independent investigation by some agency that's not related to the city, so that it's done, it's clean, we know who approved what, who didn't approve what. Did the car park just buy equipment without your authorization? Did somebody give authorization? I just think that we need to kind of settle this once and for all. And I do believe that the RFP process that Councilor Doty was talking about that was on the news was referenced the initial RFP for the vendor, if I remember that correctly, and making sure that we hit all the times and dates on that, which I don't have any reason to think that we didn't. But when it comes to the equipment, that's the part where I think it gets a little bit confusing and blurry, is did we need an RFP for that, even if the car park bought it? Did we not need that? But whether we needed it or not, it still would have been a almost $600,000 expense that needed to be approved by council, which in my opinion would have needed to be something that somebody like at the mayor's office would have had to agree to bring in front of council. And I think that's the missing piece. We don't know who said okay, who didn't, or if car park just went on their own. So I'm going to just strongly suggest again that this council initiate and execute an investigation with an outside agency to do that. And I believe, Councilor Doty, if you can correct me, is that something the Attorney General's office would do, or is that not the correct agency?
Well, you can always request. They don't always take you up on your offer, but you can request them, and there's several other agencies or businesses available to do that as well. But it is common for those requests to go to the AG, and then it's up to them. You can't force them clearly to do.
But then they don't charge, right?
I'm not going to speak for the Attorney General, but my experience is typically they do not.
Okay, well then I guess that's somehow, I don't know when that conversation comes up, but I think we need to decide that sooner than later, instead of just kind of leaving it out there lingering still. So I don't know if that's something we talk about tonight, or if we talk about that in an executive session, or how that works, but somebody can fill me in on that. And then I will not be here at the next meeting. And I know there's a lot coming, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm not coming, or I'm not going to be here. I'm not coming, like I'm stopping my feet. I had plans. Many of you know that my partner has cancer, and he will be completing, he was supposed to be completing chemo, so we're going out of town, but then they messed up the dates, so now we go out of town to celebrate him finishing chemo, and then he has to come back and do another one. So it's not so great, but the plans were already there, so that's why I won't be here. But then the other question that I had sort of was, I noticed that there has been a survey put out by the city, reference some options for the entertainment district, or whatever I guess we're calling it down there by the rodeo, with that amphitheater still showing there. And I recall Mr. Jenkins coming a couple of meetings ago talking about that they were looking at some of the suggestions that council had, which was moving over by the dog park. So I'm sort of trying to figure out why the amphitheater is still on that survey list. And then also a lot of questions have come up about how big that area is, where before it was sort of just by the rodeo and the college and then maybe those softball fields, but now it's looking like it's taken out McDonald's and Taco Time and all that. So I need some clarification on this because I personally didn't know the survey was going out, so I'm having a hard time answering questions on that. And I think that was pretty much it for my questions.
Okay, perfect, and I'll try to touch on that. We'll get through these other two, and so remind me if I forget on that. So, Councilor Allgood.
Yeah, I don't have anything near as onerous, but I just wanted to say I had the opportunity to be at the rodeo several nights the past few weeks, and I appreciate both the fire department and the police department. They had a great presence there, a lot of people at their booths. It was great to see them there, and I think they were extremely well received, and I just appreciate them being there, and thank you for the officers and firefighters that were there talking to the public.
Thank you so much, Councilor Dentenber.
So now that Councilor Allgood got started on the rodeo thing, there was a lot of people, including Mr. Moore, who's in the audience, our police department, our fire department, Brad Doty, Chris, and some other people who are at the rodeo every single night, probably till the bitter dying end, and then found their way to the Buckaroo breakfast the next morning, tired. And so all the people that make rodeo week happen, I really applaud them. I'm kind of wondering when Mr. Moore is going to quit. You've been doing this for such a long time, and if my memory serves me correct, many people wanted to quit, and you're the one that keeps dragging the Buckaroo breakfast back, so thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention is on September 20th, Friday, I know everyone's got a free calendar that day, but the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce, and here's a plug for the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce, is hosting the first ever in this area a summit on housing and development. So all the local experts with regards to property rights, housing, development, experts in the construction field are getting together for a one full day summit to talk about what's happening specifically in Caldwell, not nationwide, but in Caldwell. And so clear your calendars and go to it. It should be a great event, and I have it on good authority that some of the people within the city ranks are going to be participating in that summit. So that's it.
Very good. Thank you so much, and I'd love to give David a shout out as well. The Buckaroo breakfast, phenomenal. It's so fun to be down there, flipping pancakes, hanging out with Jeremy. So he's a good dude. But anyway, just thank you huge to David in doing that. And not just that, but I've been to a lot of events recently, and it seems like more fireworks or David this or that, whatever, so many sponsorships that David does and through his companies and things like that. So great community partner. So thank you for not only the Buckaroo breakfast, but for everything else that you do for the community. So thanks so much. Appreciate you. So kind of touching on Councilor Register's comments in regards to that survey. So I just found out about it as well. Myself, my wife is like, hey, what's up with the survey? I'm like, I don't know. And I actually haven't seen it yet. I believe, and I don't know if Char can correct me if I'm wrong, if she knows, I think it came from the master plan that's happening with the Caldwell Event Center area. I believe. I'm not certain on that because I have not seen the survey, was not aware of it. So what we can do though is check in with Robin Collins, our planning and zoning director. She's helping to lead and guide that and come back. And that could be, as an informational item or a update report at the next city council meeting to come back with that information in regards to that. So. Yes, and then also Council Register reached out to look at creating a committee to look at the downtown. As we know, the parking meter charges are gone. However, we still probably will do have a parking problem in downtown to look at. So how do we continue to look at that, do what's right? I mean, to be honest, so that passed about 12:30 p.m. on Friday. by 4 PM, we were getting texts and calls of complaining of cars parked in front of businesses for too long. And so obviously, it doesn't take that problem away. So what is that solution? So I know that Councilor Richard had mentioned about creating a committee of some kind. And, she had offered to have her and perhaps Councilor Doty on that to lead that committee, to include business owners in the downtown, to get discussion and have them basically own the decisions as they go forward to be presented to council. And so come up with solutions. Okay, here's the problem. Have this, now what's the solution? And so have some ownership, I think, and that was kind of the thought in that regard, so moving that forward. And that way it's not Councilor Register's idea, it's not Mayor Wagner's idea, it's not Councilor Denber's, it's the people that come forward with those ideas and kind of leading a guide. If I'm not mistaken, is that a fair analysis of that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it would also kind of segue into even more, it's not just parking, but other things that we can continue to do to improve the downtown, and, it can do some things. So I volunteered Councilor Doty mostly because we don't always agree on everything, and I think that's sort of the point, is to have people in there that have different opinions and different solutions, and then when you're able to sort of come together and find whatever that solution's going to be, then it helps that it's been negotiated and there's a balance between all the different things that are kind of being thrown out there. So I would really like to see that with a couple of business owners, residents. I'd really like to see the Robin, Director Collins with code enforcement on there, so in case there's any code type stuff, and just see where it takes us. So, that we are figuring out the solution, because I know there's going to be some parking issues, I'm sure, so.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think it's important to remember that, yes, it is a problem, but it's a good one. I mean, we would much rather be having to discuss how do we handle all these people coming to downtown Caldwell, rather than, 20 years ago, how do we get people to come to downtown Caldwell? So it's, just the success that we've had, and so kind of continuing to work through that and find that proper solution. And you don't always get things right the first time. You learn from it and you do better and move on to, make sure that it gets done the proper way. So we do appreciate that. And to end, just maybe on a light note, I was in search of the Caldwell Mounted Posse earlier this last week. If I can remember what day of the week it is, there was a calf that got out from the veterinary clinic close to my house and ended up in the canal next to my house. I had animal control out there, and nobody could find somebody on a horse to come and lasso this calf to take it back. And I was like, well, let's call up the Caldwell Mounted Patrol and get them out here. So they were able to finally get somebody all the way from Sand Hollow that came down and was able to get that calf. But it was interesting that they literally could not find anybody in the vicinity that had a horse could come and do it. So obviously that area is changing, but they did get the calf roped up and back to the veterinary clinic. So, but anyway, it was a fun little moment. So brought some neighbors out to be able to talk and get to know each other. So that is all that I really had. So appreciate everybody being here this evening, getting the work done. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And with that, yes, go ahead. Oh, yes, I apologize. Thank you. I was about to adjourn us, and we do have, I guess for most of us, most of you were done, but we get to stay. So yes, if we could have a motion to go into executive session.
I move to convene into executive, let me start this over. I move to convene into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74206, subsection 1F, for the purpose of discussing pending litigation or where there is a general public awareness of probable litigation, and Section 74-206.
Okay.
Second.
So that's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic to go into executive session, and we do need a unanimous vote on this. So with that, the voting is open. And votes are in. That is closed, and that does pass unanimously. So thank you again to everyone for being here this evening. You are, I guess, asked to leave at this time, and then we will commence our executive session.